Had a skybox material that I kind of just threw together a while ago, and I've been using it. But I want to try to make something a little strong, a little better. So that's kind of what I'm going to play with tonight. So let's see. First, let's come up with a good way to make fields of stars, right? use cell noise over here. We'll call this seems like a pretty good density function. Okay, so alright, and then if I took for right off the bat. I'm looking for more like a stringy thing of high density stars. Let me check something real quick. Alright, idea. Before we go smooth stepping this by a negative number, let's take a look at the ABS output, and this will tell us if it's actually negative domain stuff. It is. That's not too bad. And then we could do the same with green. Let's take a look at it. Pull off a 1- node. It's a bit much. If I just look at red now, what's that look like? But like they jump around like crazy. Of course, if we're gonna take a snapshot of it, which is probably the best way to do it, Okay. Don't really like the looks of this one. I think the other one's better, to be honest. Let's just work some nebulas. Let's see. I'll take a Voronoi. We'll take a gradient. Hundo. Lessons learned from last time. We should distort before we divide the coordinates. Oh man. Started doing this, but I'm like super sleepy today for some reason. It's raining outside. It's been raining outside all day. That's why. One minus. That's kind of interesting, actually. I can see this working. We just have to bring it like way down, so. How is this possible? Oh. Freaking verb. You can't. Okay. You can't combine them like this. You have to. No wonder, because I'm feeding it into the green channel, so of course it's fucking green. I guess it's not too bad.
Texture core, and in this we've got an X and a Y, and I'm going to bring in a break connecting to without but a custom date. With a color, connect that.
Hold on, quick.
The node, the sort
Quick
of
change of
connect
plans here.
and then change this color to something maybe like a blue or something like that. You know, that's the default color for our black hole, and we're going to convert this to a parameter and call it black hole, or more like creation. You know, this color, something like that, right? And then we can also set a group for it, in which we're going to name it global settings, right? And then with that done, we can add an intensity here. So let's just keep S on the keyboard pressed and left click. This will add a scalar parameter, and we can call that emission intensity, because we're plugging this into an emission anyway. And we'll just give it a value of, I don't know, maybe like 1 or something like that, right? And this goes into the emissive color over here. We can also keep A pressed on the keyboard and left click. This will add an add node, and then we can connect that over into our opacity. Now I want to just, you know, for myself, so we can have a look. The first thing that we'll need to do about this is to ensure that it is set to leave it to surface, set it to translucent, and make it unlit, and also two-sided. And that should give us the right material to be able to do this. The next thing you want to do, second, is you want to create the material, well, create the nodes by adding the number variable, connecting to this add node a breakout float for component, and we just want the alpha of that, and just point to the A value here, and then over here add in a vector length node, and this one we want to take the v3 and plug it into the add node, and also plug it over into the multiply over here like that as well. Okay, with that done, we want to add a mask, so just type in component mask. Make sure the RGB of all three of them are being masked, but leave the alpha unticked, and then plug that into the vector 3. We obviously get an error here because we need something to connect it to. And this is the point where a material, a special custom material is going to be needed. I'm just going to bring the material to my original black hole. And what we've got here is we've got a custom data material. And this has a code, a C++ code, which has been modified by me and other people to make it work and create this material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this entire code and put it into the YouTube description underneath. You'll find the link, or if it can be allowed as a description, I'll just put it in there. So you copy that entire code and you paste it into the material. And I'll show you how to do that. But one thing you will have to do on your own is add all of these parameters. So I'll show you how to do that first. But the first thing you want to do is Control C on this material. Go into your black hole material. You can Control C and Control V. I can do that because I've got it. But you'll have to just look for custom. And that's it. That's it. It's just a custom, right? And what you do to this custom, you go in here. You can rename it to. I'm just going to put example as a name. This is where the code needs to go. So you would take this code that you can copy and then go into your example, delete that number 1 there and Control V. And that adds the code within that material, okay? Now, after you do that, the code is not going to work because you don't have any of these variables. The first thing, you want to change the output type to float 4. And then you want to start adding inputs. Now, if you look at this material, it's got 23 inputs, well, 24 including 0. So every one of these inputs, when you go over here, you press the plus button, it will add a new input. And then in that input, you can type in the name of it. And it's very important that you type in the name exactly as you're seeing on the screen right now. So that's T chord, for example, for the first one. And then the second one will be C.
Alright, it's going to take a second. The first time I tried to do this, I didn't understand what I was doing as well as I do now. The first time and then I just saw this while I was browsing the other thing and it caught my eye and I wanted to try it. Gotta zoom in on this to read it. R int. It's a kerning thing. Let's turn it to 4K. R int. Rent. iRing. Strength. Thresh. Arfac. Sweet. There we go.
Pose, because each of these, this is a texture coordinate, this is a camera position, this is time, and so on. And you want to add all of those. So just make sure that whatever you do, you actually look at this code and you add all of these, but the code itself you can copy, right? After you do that, you plug in the code, the black hole code, into this mask, and you also plug it into the float over here. And the next step really for us is to now generate all the parameters that are needed for these variables in order for the material to work. And I'm going to start doing that now one by one. Okay, so for the texture coordinate, we want to bring a make float 2, and the result is going to go into texture coordinate. And in this, we've got an x and a y, and I'm going to bring in a break out float 2 components, and the r value can go into the x value, but then the green value we want to invert, so we're just going to take 1 minus. 1 minus essentially, that's what it does, it just inverts the value that you're plugging into it. So if it's 1, it's going to be
not
minus
exactly,
1.
but yes, for the most part.
And then in here we want to add the screen position, and we take the viewport UV and put into our float. Now, just imagine this black hole is really dependent on your view, your viewport, your camera. We're going to do things later on that are basically taking that into account, this resolution of your screen. So your black hole always scales alongside the resolution of your screen. Okay, so then we've got the C position, the camera position. And then we will take a camera, a vector ds for that, and that goes into the C position. Then we've got the next one, which is camera, sorry, the time. So we're going to take in time and plug it in here as well, which is fine. Then the next thing, this, sorry, no, I made that wrong. Time needs to go into time. I don't know why I put it in there. So we've got to put time into the time area.
It's going to be like this.
Camera vector, I'm going to put it in here, camera vector, because I've actually skipped one by mistake here. I need the camera position VS, and then I'm going to need the actor position as well. So we've got actor and camera position. We're going to subtract the camera position from the actor position, so I'm just going to subtract this. Put them both into here, and then plug them into the camera position. Okay, and that should fix our camera situation. Okay, now into this value in here, we need to add a black value. So just bring in a color, plug it in there, and just leave it as black. And you'll not hear from this again. Okay, now we've got the resolution. So for that, we're going to bring, not the screen position, we're going to bring the screen resolution and take a visible resolution and just put it in there, and that should fix our resolution problem. Okay, for the next one, we've got quality steps. So scalar, for a scalar parameter, call it quality steps. This will ensure that we get more steps on our texture distortion that we're creating, and I would put a value, default value of about 56 in there, and just apply that. I know the material is going to be an error, but let's just make sure we're not going to lose the work that we've done. Then we've got the C1. Now this is how big is the black hole, so how big is the horizon, right? This is going to be what's going to determine the event horizon. So we can actually, although we're going to do this for the material, by the way, we're going to do all of this for the blueprint, set parameters material, we still want to set the material in the right way here as well. So for this particular one, I am going to call this event horizon, something like that, make it sound dramatic, size. And also quality steps, we may want to put this into the global settings, and maybe the event horizon put it into the
I'll do all that later. I just want to know what all the controls do first.
Settings or something like
Whole
that. Right?
settings.
So I don't know, just whatever you think. But we're just gonna put that in there, and I'm gonna give it a default value again of 1 for this. Okay, it's not really that important. RV, we can, so we're just gonna name it that way. If we're unsure about how we're going to use something, we're just going to name it as it's being in the code, and then we're just going to plug it in here. And if we need to use this later on, we can rename it to something else. I think that, you know, that's quite useful.
This guy makes great videos,
like
by the way. Like,
okay, and then we
really
have this
great
AD
tutorials on
here.
shit.
This is where we're going to put our
Arcadian's puzzle
creation
box.
disk texture. So we want to bring in a texture sample, right click it and convert to texture object. Okay, and this texture you got already. Just type in default. You already got a texture that you can use. Just use this one, the default texture, and this, plug it in there, and that will be the texture that we will be stretching later on when we want to play around with the creation disk. We're just gonna bring these nodes upwards so that they're not in the way of the next nodes that are being added. As you can see, we're about halfway through on adding all of this stuff in as well in here. And in here we want to put a scalar for the radians. I'm just gonna leave it at 2. Don't need this actually. I'm just gonna leave it over there. The next one is the ring radius. That's pretty important. Let's make sure that we actually name that, and we give it again a value of 1. These are just default values that we're going to change later on when we need to make some adjustments. Okay, then this one, the R width, this is where we distort the texture, right? This is an important one, so you've got to make sure you name it properly. Let's just call it texture stretch, and I would definitely put something like 100 on this, just because you do want to stretch that texture a bit. Okay, now the max root, this, if you play around with this particular setting, it will make your creation disk sort of start creating duplicates of itself around itself. So it's quite an interesting effect if you want to play around with that. But I will leave that one to you guys. In the meantime, I am just going to call it as it is, and if we want to use it, we can use it. These V1 and V2, these are colors for the black hole, but because we are sort of on the back end, we are overwriting that. I'm just gonna put 2 colors here, and maybe like a blue and maybe like a red. I don't know, something like that. And then I'm gonna plug them in, and they will be forgotten in here for the time being, because I'm gonna get an error in the code if I don't do this. So I'm just gonna put those colors in there quite nicely. Now what we've got here is we've got a time value, okay, and then we've got where the sort of the movement of the ring as well. So what we need is we need a multiply node that we can then connect into our value. Sorry, I need to. Seems that I need to refresh my page.
Don't do it.
Right, so we've got a time value, we've got a multiply in there. We can.
Son of a bitch. Annoying. Alright, I'm gonna go get a drink of water. Alright. fucking annoying. Skip it. Oh. Yeah, we'll open them. Are we gonna function? I can drag this around, but I can't shut it. Okay, there it is. Okay, so fuck me. Okay, we didn't lose too much here. I mean, we sort of did. So the two vector colors are V1, V2. You had them like something like this. I had to do it like the other one that was bugging out and crashing when I plug shit into it and just save after everything I plug up. Alright, let's go back a smidge. C1. Step was set to 56. C1 was 1, I believe.
Give it a default value again of 1 for this. Okay, it's not really that important. RV, we can, so we're just gonna name it that way. If we're unsure about how we're going to use something, we're just going to name it as it's being in the code, and then we're just going to plug it in here. And if we need to use this later on, we can rename it to something else. I think that, that's quite useful to be able to do something like that. Okay, and then we have this AD here, where this is where we're going to put our creation disk texture. So we want to bring in a texture sample, right click it and convert to texture object. Okay, and this texture you got already, just type in default, you already got a texture in here that you can use. Just use this one, the default texture, and this, plug it in there, and that will be the texture that we will be stretching later on when we want to play around with the creation disk. We're just gonna bring these nodes upwards so that they're not in the way of the next nodes that are being added. As you can see, we're about halfway through on adding all of this stuff in as well in here. And in here we want to put a scalar for the radians. I'm just gonna leave it at 2. Don't need this actually. I'm just gonna leave it over there. The next one is the ring radius. That's pretty important. Let's make sure that we actually name that, and we give it again a value of 1. These are just default values that we're going to change later on when we need to make some adjustments. Okay, then this one, the R width, this is where we distort the texture, right? This is an important one, so you've got to make sure you name it properly. Let's just call it texture stretch, and I would definitely put something like 100 on this, just because you do want to stretch that texture a bit. Okay, now the max root, this, if you play around with this particular setting, it will make your creation disk sort of start creating duplicates of itself around itself. So it's quite an interesting effect if you want to play around with that. But I will leave that one to you guys. In the meantime, I am just going to call it as it is, and if we want to use it, we can use it. These V1 and V2, these are colors for the black hole, but because we are sort of on the back end, we are overwriting that. I'm just gonna put two colors here, and you know, maybe like a blue and maybe like a red, I don't know, something like that. And then I'm gonna plug them in, and they will be forgotten in here for the time being, because I'm gonna get an error in the code if I don't do this. So I'm just gonna put those colors in there quite nicely. Now what we've got here is we've got a time value, okay, and then we've got where, you know, the sort of the movement of the ring as well. So what we need is we need a multiply node that we can then connect into our value. Sorry, I need to see that I need to refresh my page. Right, so we've got a time value, we've got a multiply in there. We can bring in the time node yet again and plug that into the A value. But we want to put the speed, we want to multiply the time and the speed. So let's just put ring speed. So this is the rotation speed. We can call it ring rotation speed or something like that, but you know, I'm gonna give it a default value of 0.001, so it just sort of turns quite slowly. I don't need that to turn very quickly. And now I'm gonna also add a divide node in here, and I'm going to buy another scalar parameter. I'm gonna call this ring intensity and plug it into the divide. And time, again, I'm gonna plug it into the divide, which can then go into here. Okay, and that should resolve that issue. Another thing to remember is that we've put this into the whole setting. We've got a ring radius here. Again, I'm gonna plug it into the divide, which can then go into here. Okay, and that should resolve that issue. Another thing to remember is that we've put this into the whole setting. We've got a ring radius here, so we might want to call that disk as a group. The texture is obviously still part of the disk. Max root is part of the disk. Ring speed
except
and ring intensity, again, part of the disk.
Except the refraction stuff is going to be part of the disk. You never actually see the black hole
itself. We've got all of that put together. Now we need these two here are two scalars parameters. We are going to name them as they are. This is the intensity of the ring and the radius of the intensity of the ring, so like a fall off. But I'm just going to put those two with a default value of 1 and 0, and not necessarily going to play around with those for now. Also, what we do have in here is the strength is determined as a sort of a fall off from. So we're going to have ring intensity fall off. And this is, I'm just going to put that in there, and I think a default value of 1 should be fine. This will just sort of stop the ring at the edges. The accretion disk at the edges will, at the outer edges, will be blurred. If you don't put this in, it will, you know, it'll just be sharp, and you don't want that. You want it to fade away, sort of thing, right? Okay, and then the next one, I believe, let me just have a look. So we've got a Doppler intensity ring, which is this threshold. Let me just add a scalar. So we're going to call this Doppler intensity. This is a this ring part here is a disk setting, and the Doppler intensity is a hole setting, and I'm going to put that into the threshold. Okay. Then I'm going to have this RFAC here, again a scalar parameter with, I'm going to call it as it is, and just leave a default value of 1. Doppler intensity is good to be left at 0 for now. You only need it if you actually do need it, depending on your Bloom settings. And then the H size is the actual total black hole size. So at that point, add the scalar parameter black hole size, not so's, sorry, not so's, we need size, and we'll leave that a value of, I don't know, let's just leave it at 1. I think it's dangerous to go above. I think you'll just think the black hole isn't working. Okay, so we've got that in there. This is a global parameter, so global setting, and I'm just going to apply, and the material should now be ready. So we're, give or take, we're ready to put this onto a sphere or into a blueprint. So what we'll do now we'll create a material instance and a blueprint and just quickly test our black hole before moving on to the refraction setting. And what we're gonna do, sorry, I've just moved literally moved the window. Just gonna take the black hole material out. I'm going to right click in here and create a blueprint class. And I need an actor, and I'm gonna call this BP black hole tutorial. And I can drop into the world if I want to, but also let's double click it, bring it over here. That's the black hole material. Oh, sorry, that's the original black hole material. I don't need that. I need the, I've got my, oh, I've closed it. So there we go, black hole material. And then the black hole itself. I'm going to, in the content browser, I'm going to right click the black hole material and create a material instance. I'm going to go back into the blueprint, and now I'm going to add a static mesh. And for the static mesh, I'm just going to call this black hole. And over here in the static mesh, search for a sphere, and you should be getting a sphere. I mean, you literally can use any sphere. So I'm going to use this material sphere. It's just a simple sphere. And you can see it within the world, right? Now the material, I will select this instance and drop it in. And you can see now that it's disappeared. Okay, let's compile. We don't need to do anything here. Let's go back into our level and select our black hole. Now, you've got to play around with some settings. What we need first is we need to open the material instance. So I've got it open. I'm just going to drag it over here and make it a bit bigger, okay? And these are all the things that we've sort of set up for in there, you know, with the categories and what they do. Okay, now we can't really see anything, so this is, you know, this is not nice. I am going to just make sure the preview is very closed up. So one thing that's really important about the black hole is the size of the blueprint itself. So to start off with, to make sure that this is we're in the right direction, let's just move this to 100. So I've just increased the size of the actual sphere to about 100. And now we want to start activating some of these settings in here, you see. And to be able to see what works and what doesn't. So we definitely want to play around with these settings to begin with. We've got a Doppler intensity, but there's nothing to bring that, that effect from. The event horizon size doesn't seem to be doing anything, so you may want to start from a very, very low setting. The black hole size, again, doesn't seem to be doing anything, so I'm not really seeing anything, and this is always the problem. And you see, if I'm going too close, this is then looking okay. So it does look like being closer or further away from the sphere itself does something, but then, it just turns it completely black, so there's clearly something going on in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the event horizon quite small, but then it's the black hole size itself that maybe is too big. So let me just play around with these settings, maybe take this to 0.5. Let me just try and find what works. Okay, so I've put the
Yo, what up? Sorry, I'm in paying attention to stuff, but I'm looking at this black hole shader. Speed. Intensity fall. Ah, fuck, I'm gonna have to go name all this shit the same as he did, because I don't... Alright, hang on. Max rod texture stretch. This is fine. This is fine. Okay, let's see. Quality steps, I name that Event horizon size is plugged into C1. Okay, there it is. Okay, go in a little bit. RV's plugged in there. Yep. Wait. What do you plug into AD? AD is the texture object.
Play around with the creation disk. We're just gonna bring these nodes upwards so that they're not in the way of the next nodes that are being added. As you can see, we're about halfway through on adding all of this stuff in as well. I'm just gonna leave it at 2. Don't need this actually. I'm just gonna leave it over there. The next one is the ring radius. That's pretty important. Let's make sure that we actually name that, and we give it again a value of 1. These are just default values that we're going to change later on when we need to make some adjustments. Okay, then this one, the R width, this is where we distort the texture, right? This is an important one, so you've got to make sure you name it properly. Let's just call it texture stretch, and I would definitely put something like 100 on this, just because you do want to stretch that texture a bit. Okay, now the max root, this, if you play around with this particular setting, you're gonna plug them in, and then
Did that.
and I'm gonna plug it next one. I believe. Let me just have a look.
Speed and.
So we've got a Doppler intensity ring, which is this threshold. Let me just add a scalar. So we're gonna call this Doppler intensity. This is a so this ring part here is a disk setting, and a D here again a scalar parameter.
Doppler 1 and 2
I'm
thresh.
gonna call it as it is, and just leave a default value of 1. Doppler intensity is good to be left at 0 for now. You only need it if you actually do need it, depending on your bloom settings. And then the H size is the actual total black hole size. So at that point, add the scalar
I think I have everything
parameter.
named correctly. Now let's go back to the
But then, we just go into effect.
successful values here. Alright, so let's see here. We've got max rot. I think I did these. Max rot is at 2. Ring intensity is at 0. So maybe the ones that I've already checked against the example over here. Ring radius is at 5. Over to here. Ring speed 0.001. Yep, we checked that. Emission intensity is over there. We check that. I-ring, RFAC, R int is 5, not 0.5. RRAD is at 12. RV is at 1. black hole size. He has a 350, quality steps of 56, ring intensity fall off is at 2-ish. Can I get this at a 1? No, go away.
Turns it completely black, so there's clearly something going on in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the event horizon quite small, but then it's the black hole size itself that maybe is too big. So let me just play around with these settings, maybe take this to 0.5. Let me just try and find what works. Okay, so I've put the settings around this point. I've made the blueprint quite large. Now if we enable everything within the world, then the sky is going to affect the way we see it.
I see.
So, you know, I would definitely get rid of some of this stuff to make sure you got a black scene like this, so you can properly see it. And now what we've done here is, you know, the max root, like I've told you, is going to create sort of multiple versions of the creation disk. So I would leave that to a 1 or a 2, but you know, 5 can go all the, you know, both 5s need to be starting to create that duplication. The ring intensity in this particular, you can see what it's doing when you play around with it.
And I suspect we probably need a Fresnel refraction index.
Leave that to 0 if you want. Then you've got the intensity fallout. So
let's see if I can figure out the next part myself. And it sounds like Lindsay's home, so I'll probably go chat with her in just a second. There we go. Hey! Let's just see what happens when I do that. Yeah, we're sort of getting the refraction we want. I mean, I'm going to check the rest of the tutorial. But I'm pretty happy with this. That's pretty neat. And I bet that we can make it better too. Okay, so let's turn the refraction off here. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to get the refraction indexes right. This is flipped, actually. So, Alright, let's just turn it off for the moment. He's gonna go into refraction on the tutorial anyway, I think. I'm just happy we got the HLSL working. Yeah, all good. If it wasn't refracting itself, it might work. Why are you still refracting? Come on now. Bullshit. Alright, how about this? No refraction, at least for now. We'll come back to that. And I'm curious what happens when I change this texture to something else. So I have some textures, some noise textures we can probably use. I see. I think I understand what is going on. Oh, that's interesting. Alright, let's just go with like a noise texture for now. A rainbow. Yeah, well, just hold on. This is fun to fuck around with. I think they're stretching this for the mask. Yeah. This is almost certainly a texture being fed in to basically be distorted. It's a little much. Oh, it didn't like that. So no volume textures. That's not dense enough. So basically we just need anything with some variance. Yeah, I bet if you use this grayscale it would... well... Not enough variance in that one. Let's find one that has it. We'll just go back to this tiling noise. I think that's going to be your best bet. Alright.
You can see if you go all the way to 0, then it creates a hard edge, so you want to keep that somewhere maybe around here to be able to mask that. Then you've got the radius, which is very sort of, the importance of this is not, just this value, just leave it around there, because it really depends on the texture that you're using. So, if you put this to 0, for example, it will disappear. If you take it to 1, doesn't show anything. To 2, it's quite small, and 4, 5. So I would say leave it at about 5. You've got the stretch here, which again, depending on the texture, in this particular case, it doesn't work. Because of the texture. You've got the emission intensities. This is the intensity of the actual color, as you're seeing in there. I like this really, what you call it, irradiated coffee color. Then you've got the intensity of the ring color as well, so you can get some more shine if you're using that. I would leave the R factor 1. This intensity slider here, again, you can see that it's just really stretching that texture, making a lot more rings, so you can make something more stylized in this particular way if you want to. That looks quite nice, doesn't it? Yeah, look at that. Okay, then you've got the R radiance there set to 12. Now I'm not really seeing any changes. If you change it to anything else, I would just leave it at 12. RV, again, nothing. This is a default value of 1. this is where we have our color, so we can change the color to whatever we want. Sorry, that was the Discord thing.
Yeah.
Discord just creates these very loud noises. Then we've got the quality steps. So if we increase these,
Yeah, that's
we'll
fine.
just get more steps of these, the quality of our black hole. But I would leave it at about 56. The size, as you know, it just increases or decreases the black hole depending on how big the sphere is. Then you've got the Doppler intensity, which is this sort of shine that comes from the event horizon. And then you've got how big can the hole itself get. So, this is what I'm saying, that this black hole can be really nice to look at and really work on multiple different effects with it. It's really powerful stuff, right? Really powerful stuff and really powerful effects. And that's really the lesson on putting together the materials and how to get them to work for this blueprint. If you scale down the blueprint, let's say you go to a scale of 1,000, which is obviously quite low. As you can see, the
Great.
black hole is bigger than the sphere, so you will then just decrease the size, and that will then be okay. Now it's time to set up the outer, that refraction material, which is quite straightforward. Okay, now when we're just gonna go over and create a new material. M lensing, and I'm gonna right click it and create a material instance. I'm gonna open the material itself. Again, with this selected, we want to make sure it's translucent and unlit. Add an add node, and here and connect it over into our.
Fine. We'll do it as two materials. As kind of, but okay. New material. I wonder if I could use the functional, because I got the refraction part working a while ago. Okay. What if I duplicate this? I stick this in it. And then I go in here. And I just this up to a constant 0 value just for the refraction. The other one's translucent material, so it shouldn't get refracted. Yeah, there we go. So I can actually use the refraction texture I already built on this. We can probably shrink the refraction sphere a bit though. Nifty. Where's the black hole at? There it is. Pretty cool. I can probably steal that spiral distortion that they're using there for other effects too. I just have to go look in that HLSL code and figure out what's going on. Now where's the star? Oh, bonk. I bonked. Oh, I bonked it. I bonked into it. Okay, there it is. That is not too shabby. Oh, okay, it's a lot bigger than it looks. Should really probably turn collision off on that shit. It's fucking cool. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to have a planet that much bigger than a black hole, but at the same time, it is kind of cool. Nifty. You can get the little reflection of the star there. That's nice. I like it. Well, that's definitely the best attempt at a black hole so far. I don't need the rest of his tutorial because I already did the gravitational lensing texture a long time ago. Alright. I'm gonna have to update the skybox and make it a little bit more interesting. So here's another question. I suspect yeah, that's what I thought. So it's like statically defining the size of the black hole, and so like for example, if I made these the same size but then I went back in this material here and we increase the size of this to like that's too big. Something like that. Now it's supposed to be animated, but I think I saw the stats for it. There's like a speed somewhere in here. There it is. Neat. Okay, cool. So I think I'll go back to the star field texture. It's way too bright, obviously. That is cool, though. Having it, like, distort the skybox. This really gives a good look at the effect. This is freaking cool. Okay. 1%, 10%. The problem with these emissives things is, like, once it passes a certain threshold, it just goes full. I don't know how to... Like, okay. We're under the threshold for it to be visible. Well, no. No, we're actually not. We just are as soon as we look at something that's bright. Yeah, it's like as soon as I pass a certain threshold, it's just fucking boom. You get the whole thing. We could use the gravity sphere blueprint that we made yesterday to add some inescapable gravity to it. So now, if I go closer to this thing, at a certain point I should hit that gravity sphere. Am I getting pulled yet? No, I was still outside of it. Let's position ourselves right near the edge of it. Alright. Now we're getting sucked in. I think it should be. Oh, yep. There it is. You can tell what happens. I turned it up very high, so it really snatches you up. Oh yeah, I'm already in the middle. Okay. Cool. And I actually can't escape because there's more gravity than I have acceleration available to my little ship. Alright, that's cool. So that's how you can make a black hole with gravity. Just go basically copy someone's HLSL code. So I think this needs some relative brightness stuff. Where's my other... No, not this one. That was another try. There it is. I think this guy has had the best. Can probably be like a density function for the star field. Excuse me? How is this possible? Oh. Derp. Yeah, it'll do that when you're inside of the fucking thing. This is the problem I run into with these noise-based approaches. Is like you hit a certain level where, like, you're literally sampling the maximum points in the noise, and there is no more like way to scale it. 999, 1.1, 1.5. Okay, never mind. There definitely is a way to keep going. Oh yeah, and this is probably part of it. Okay, I take it back. 5. feel like there should be like a power in here somewhere. There we go. So much. It's like way too small. And also, this is another problem that arises with noise textures sometimes. I need to derive the UVs in some way that doesn't cause it to jitter around like this. But hey, the black hole was successful, I think. I want to add some, yeah, that's just god awful. I want to add some like distance, like squared fall off or something to the gravity spheres, so that you start feeling the tug at a lower rate, and then you start accelerating more and more the closer you get to the surface of the object. So I need to do that. I need to come up with like an actual good procedural nebula texture as well. I have the one that I've been using as a skybox, but it's just kind of a placeholder. That's just going to involve me sitting down and fucking with it for a long period of time, probably. Oh, yep, it got me. Can I slow this? I doubt I can escape. Yeah. So this weekend, I'm trying to think of what I need to do. We're going to the fair tomorrow. I'm not going to have too much time. I need to get a nice procedural nebula in place, and I would like to get a blueprint to proceduralize this planet material so that like I can just hit a button and have it spit out like random planets that look good. Only problem is it doesn't distort translucent things with the refraction, so things like the atmosphere bubble get kind of fucked up in it, but I think you could solve that by just having it sufficiently far enough away. I do have to figure out how to make the refraction not disappear when I get far from it. I'm gonna do some research here. Oops. Let's not do that. So we gotta go shopping. I'm probably gonna call it here and come back tonight and try to come up with some ideas on how to make one of these that just looks really awesome, that can be randomized in a bunch of different ways. The nebula sphere is something that we can conceivably snap as an HDRI to, rather than having it constantly be a material. I mean, it would be a material, but it would just be a texture. And that would decrease the complexity of it. Let's see. Maybe I'll bring coworker in on it too. Let's just see what direction coworker thinks we should go. these are all kind of like basic concepts that I already understood. Remove the infinity mirror there. Let's see, so yeah, this is very basic. What is a good way to derive normal node or custom UV manipulation? Noise patterns of masks. We're hitting like volume sampling issues where like sampling the noise on a sphere you can actually see the like voxel ridges. It's kind of cool.